There's it's just so much denial about aging in our culture, especially if you're, walking around in a female gendered body or female identified body. There's so much toxicity, so many, many, many terribly damaging core beliefs that we have all internalized, which also means or invites that there's so much still to learn, to grow.
Hey there, it's Kelly from Zinni. Before we get started on today's episode, I want to invite you to one of our greatest trainings ever. It's how to build and grow a profitable solo or group practice sustainably. All you got to do is check it out at zinnime.com/podcast. All right, on to our episode.
Welcome back to the podcast. This is Kelly Higdon, and today I'm joined by Dr. Melanie Harth, a therapist in Santa Fe, New Mexico. We're going to be talking about the lifespan of private practice and the older years of what that looks like as you grow and shift your practice along with the shifts of life and living. Welcome, Melanie.
Thank you. It's so cool to be here with you. I love you guys. You know I love you, and I love getting to say I love you guys.
It's good to see you. I mean, we've known each other for several years. How long have you been in private practice?
Well, this could be my first. I don't remember. It's been a long time, although I am definitely a late bloomer. So I didn't finish my PhD until I was sort of, I don't know, early 50s.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say let's give it 20 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I didn't start out in private practice. I started out as, almost all of us do, trying to get my supervision hours in. And I had a very fancy sounding position I helped create, and I ran an IOP here in Santa Fe, and it was a hellscape of a job. It was awful, which, we have heard a lot of stories like this. And and I had my PhD and I was licensed and all of that. And I was being paid $18 an hour. It still pisses me off. It still offends me.
It should.
And I asked for a raise to all of $20 an hour, and I did not get it.
Wow.
And that was a big piece of, I think I can do this on my own. Late bloomer. So that's part of what started me into private practice, where, gosh, I love.
What do you love about private practice?
I am a bad employee. I'm a bad employee. I am much more comfortable in a leadership position. I like working on the right team, as I define right team. I need to feel respected. I need to have a great deal of autonomy. And in terms of private practice, I set my own schedule. It's incredible. I work with the clients that feel like the right fit for me, and they feel like the right fit for me in part because there's a sense that I might actually be able to help them, serve them, guide them where they want to go. I also set all the parameters and boundaries in my practice that I need. One of my big learning curves when I went through the boot camp, when you guys were doing twice a year boot camp thing, it was raising my fees. Oh my God. I had to work through so much of my own poverty mentality and, inherited trauma and all of that stuff. And I'm very much a people pleaser, child of trauma myself, as I'm a trauma specialist. And the idea of me claiming my worth felt like Mount Everest. And yet, of course, it isn't. It just was that for me in some of my own parts. And working through your program and just doing it and taking the time I needed and pushing myself. And I didn't lose one client. I now am one of the highest fee therapists in the state. I'm having a little somatic response of like, ooh, is that okay?
Is that okay to say?
Is it okay to say? And they don't all like me. The clients are, well, some of them get upset when they don't have the money to pay for my fee. And I get that. Oh my God, I get that. And anyway, it was just a bunch of stuff for me in terms of my own personal growth and evolution to become an actual business owner and get conscious and get some insight about what my needs really are. You mean run numbers? Well, that was a new thought. I mean, I was in practice for years before I did anything, and I'm still a little sloppy about that, but I'm so much better. And thank goodness it's not about perfection. It's only about
Right.
progress.
Right.
Yeah.
I just want to go back to that somatic response because I just want to call out anyone who's listening. Notice if you had any kind of response to what Melanie's saying about like the highest, paid or charging highest fee in her state and what that feels like. But also notice that there's a bridge between that to a need. There's a need in her life that mandates that fee. And so I think like if you're listening and you have a response, I think get curious, compassionately curious about that response and ask yourself, are my needs being met by my business? Because sometimes that response is a cue. If we're listening and we hear it from someone else, it's a cue for us to look within ourselves to see if we are meeting our needs. So I just want to highlight that because I think I love your honesty about it and the attunement with your own self and your parts about what does that bring up for me? But as you kept talking, it's like, oh, I have needs. There's a reason why this fee exists. It's not just arbitrary.
Right. I have needs. What a shocker. I get to claim that I have those needs.
Mm-hmm.
It's terrific for me to have done that, actually standing on the foundation of numbers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of spreadsheet phobic,
Yeah.
but running it's like I am hardly, that's not my thing. But as a business owner and as an independent human being, and maybe I don't know how much woman comes into this. I don't need to get into that, I don't think. But to be independent, to be complete, to be whole in who I am and what I came here to do, not to paint it all a rosy picture because, oh my God, it took me a long time and I didn't make it to raise my fees through that first boot camp, but you had some really good outsourcing referrals. And so I did a free pre-program
Mm-hmm.
training course with somebody else. And that helped me get over the hump. And then it was like overthinking pony jumping out of the barn. But really, I'm doing all of this is about me.
Mm-hmm.
As Jungian, as Jung called it, individuating, becoming more whole, loving myself into more wholeness,
Mm-hmm.
claiming what I deserve because I'm here
Mm-hmm.
and giving an appropriate value to my services. And I still am having a little low belly gut response, like, "Oh, what are you
Yeah.
saying? And who are these people that know shit?" But that's part of the work. And you know what? The thing is, I know you know this, Kelly. These are things that I ask or suggest or counsel every one of my clients to do.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we have to do. We have to I have to find my edge. Oh my God, there it is in the gut. Okay, what does that mean? Let's do this. Let's be curious. Let's be compassionate, and let's not stay too scared for too long because
Mm-hmm.
I'm a die before I get this over with. And you know what? I didn't lose one client, and there
Yeah.
are therapists. Ooh, that is a very high fee. It's like, yes, it is,
Yeah.
and I can stand in that and hold all of this,
Mm-hmm.
still feeling into that it's right for me and it's right for my clients. And I didn't remember increasing my client load very much, even though I did almost everything you guys said. I really did. But I doubled my income.
Mm-hmm.
And I love every one of my clients.
Mm.
And another thing that I appreciate about Business School for Therapists is that everything reflects on my clinical outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
It reflects positively on my clients' lives, on who I am, who I become as a therapist. More confident without, as much as the ego, there's always going
Mm-hmm.
to be some ego. Humility, being able to be humble and claim the value of the services.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
No, I love
Oh,
that.
that's what I do as a therapist. Like, oh, you were going to say something. What's that? You tell me now.
No, I love that. I think it's really important too. You wanted to talk some about aging
No, I
and
don't.
private
I said I did, but I didn't mean it.
and private practice, and I think too, as we age, our society, the value that we put on people who are aging, how that can also impact like our value and how we see ourselves as clinicians and all of that. What has it been like for you as you said that like you're going through some changes and facing some things? Do you want to talk more about what that's like and aging and being a therapist in private practice?
Noticing a little adrenaline somatic response right now, yes.
Yeah.
And I am different. I have had a lot of significant changes in the last couple of years. Let's say health-wise, my health, I can't breathe at this altitude anymore,
Mm.
and it's altitude related. Santa Fe is about 7,000 feet in
Mm-hmm.
elevation. I don't have enough oxygen in my blood. It has begun affecting my cognitive abilities, my ability to exercise. It, of course, then is also kicking in, activating all of those yummy existential terrors of, oh, my own mortality,
Mm-hmm.
my own vulnerability. What am I going to do? How am I going to do this? Do I want to keep doing this therapy? If I
Mm-hmm.
don't do that, what else am I going to do? And really importantly for me is, can I offer? Can I fulfill what I say I can do for clients now? What if I'm having a bad day? Today happens to be a really stellar, fabulous day. I never know when I'm going to have a good day and a bad day,
Mm-hmm.
health wise, feeling wise.
Yeah.
And so I want to be able to, this is probably not the healthiest thing to say, but I'm not really okay doing a good enough job. I want to do a really terrific job for
Mm-hmm.
my clients on behalf of them. So I got some work to do there. But, what's good enough? Who decides that? Who defines that?
Mm-hmm.
Can I still be a relevant therapist? I learned so much from my younger clients about, oh, this and that and the other thing. It's like, I never heard of any of this shit, the stuff. And how can I be relevant for them? How can I do what I say I can do with them and be this age? Does my client population, the people I work with, need to change? How to do that if so? And also, I think really importantly for me, I always had a strong sense that psychology was one of the very few fields that an older woman could do for as long as I can show up and complete a sentence. There's something about the wisdom that might come with aging that is actually a pretty high value. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
finding that I'm attracting clients for whom that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
When I need to work with somebody or get a consult, no diss to anybody who's substantially younger than I am, but I need somebody with some
Mm-hmm.
life living experiences. And I've had several of my newest clients say that to me. So there's a way in which I can actually leverage this in a
Yes.
marketing sense. So all of that is, I don't know, did that answer your question? I've already forgotten.
No, it answers beautifully. And I think that many people can relate, even if they're younger, but with chronic illness, that kind of unpredictability of what am I going to be like today? I had that sometimes in my practice with chronic fatigue and some other things.
Mhm.
And right, like how do you create a practice that holds you through that uncertainty and still allows you to do great work and get great clinical outcomes. And sometimes that can come through shifting the service, shifting the pacing, yeah, lots of different options there. What are you finding for you of like, where are you getting curious about where to make shifts to honor the changes you're experiencing?
Was that to the listeners or to me?
To you.
I actually have been working on that for a while. Because I'm a morning person, which,
Mm-hmm.
given the issues with breathing and altitude and sleep, I mean, when I say I'm a morning person, I slept in this morning till like 4:30. Okay, so I'm a ridiculous morning person.
Mm-hmm.
So now this is like dinner time for me, and because of it is not uncommon for people of my age to develop, sort of sensitive gut issues. Nothing terrible, but eating and more inflammatory foods, how I eat, when I eat, what time before I go to bed. And all of that sort of shifts what time I work with clients. Like, I never book a client any later than 1 o'clock in the afternoon for me because I know I'm no good after that.
Mhm.
I'm not good for them. I'm fine on my own, doing
Yeah, yeah.
whatever I do, but I'm not a good therapist then. I don't trust myself. And so I can start work at 8 o'clock in the morning and I'm on it. I'm good. I've already been awake for hours. So I've done that shift. I schedule more time in between clients. I no longer am willing to sit for even 2 straight hours. I need time to get up to move. I need to eat differently. I only am seeing clients. I try to keep it to 3 days a week. Sometimes I'll do 4 days a week, but I have to have. I could power through all of this. I am the queen of powering through stuff. And that is a really fantastic survival skill
Mm.
when we are younger. Was a child of childhood sexual trauma, CPTSD, and I am really good at powering through stuff. That's another really blessing that some days I don't think is a blessing because I have to slow down. I don't want to slow down,
Mhm.
but my body needs to. And also, I'm moving. I can feel myself moving. Maybe I'm there. I'm in a different life stage, and I no longer want to do that toxic late stage capitalism, patriarchal BS way of living. I still have time to make different choices, and I want to. And I think all of this really, whether or not I talk about it explicitly with clients, I'm embodying a different way to choose. And I'm not making any less money, you guys. I'm doing better. And I've got a lot of room to earn more income on my terms.
Yeah. What I hear from that, what I'm pulling from that is as these circumstances shift, there's a call for deeper self attunement. And that self attunement then gets reflected in the practice, and clients benefit from that. Clients benefit from our responsiveness to ourselves.
Yes, that's so powerful. What you just said, you should write that down. That's really good. Self-attunement. And one of the things that I do, I mean, I love to learn. I love trainings, although I'm a little like tapped out financially of trainings. But I went through I don't know, a couple of years ago, I really got into IFS and parts, internal family systems, and that really builds very nicely on my depth psychology, on some
Mhm.
of my more subtle energy work that I'm trained in, even shamanic practices that I learned, eco psychology, energy psychology.
Mhm.
I got all into IFS and this whole working with our different parts and this attuning to oneself. And the idea of attunement to begin with, attuning with myself, attuning with you. And I find that I tend to magnetize a lot of people who don't know anything about what that feels like for
Yeah.
them. They are children, we're children of trauma, CPTSD, PTSD, and have no idea what that feels like. And so it's where we start. Because in many ways, I think it's everything.
Mhm.
It's a
Yeah.
big beginning anyway. It's a big beginning.
Yeah, we talk about how like business is the biggest life development, like
Ugh.
self-development course because I think the business can ask us for that attunement. It reflects when there is a lack of the attunement and it's just another, mirror for us to see what's going on internally a lot of the time. When you think about the next 5, 10 years in your practice, what comes up for you when you think about future forward thinking? Or is this bringing you more into just presence and taking this moment and not really future visioning?
First thing, a little fear somatic response right there.
Mm.
And I think that is I'm pretty positive most of that is about two things. One, I'm really getting old and I keep saying that and I'm still learning to make peace with all this, like whatever all this is, getting old, aging. In fact, I thought it's a good idea to write a book about this. I thought that
Mhm.
for a while. I was like, oh shit, I don't want to do that. But it's a huge inquiry for me right now. And I
Mhm.
have not fully, of course, made peace with that. So there's that, because really, do I have 10 more years in me? Might I have to have 10 more years in me because of financial issues? I don't know. And the second reason for that fear response is about what's happening in the world, what my perception is of what's happening in the world. It's
Mhm.
global and it's really highlighted right now in this country. And it's playing out politically, but I think it's a much deeper issue than that. I think that there's a lot of shadow material that
Mhm.
has never been addressed. Can we say colonialism?
Mhm.
Can we say COVID denial? Can we say the fact that we are still in a pandemic and the mass, whatever it is about all this, the mass denial, repression, the fact that there are people I really respect, not necessarily therapists, but thought leaders who say we're living now in a post-truth world.
Mm.
What does that mean? And I also very much have kind of practiced with the rule of thumb that I'm pretty self-disclosing with people. I'm pretty open and transparent. It's one of the ways I think can be quite healing, within appropriate boundaries. And based on that, not to really share much with clients about a personal journey of healing I've undergone until we're on the other side of it. And we can look back at it and go, oh, yeah, when I was, 30, 40, 50, 60, but we are now all living in this topsy-turvy, crazy, batshit, everything. And many of my clients want to talk about that. So in terms of what the future holds, and then I mean, I'm terrified and fascinated
Mhm.
equally with AI. And I'm hearing about my clients using AI.
Mhm.
And I'm in some, private communities for therapists. And wow, the conversations going on about AI are really, we're going to be out of a job. We don't
Yeah.
need therapists. And the fear mongering is tremendous.
Mhm.
And so I have to feel into that and be able to self attune and then also feel into the parts of myself that are up, that are activated, that are triggered, and be able to be curious and be with all of this that comes up. And my short answer to your question is I have no idea.
I love that. It's
What
so honest.
I don't know. I know what I want. I know what I used to want.
Mhm.
I know how much my work working with others gives to me, brings to me. I don't know. And who knows at this point?
Yeah.
I wouldn't bet a dollar one way or the other.
It's funny, like I used to be known for being the planner, for being the one that was like, okay, how do you take your 5-year goal and reduce it down into your daily tasks? That's one of the big things that I used to love to teach on. And I just have let all that go. I mean, I can focus
Yeah.
on what's your goal this year, what are the projects, and getting it down to
Yep.
tasks. But 5 years out, I'm not there anymore. And I've
Yeah.
relinquished a lot of that. I hear you on the AI stuff. We just did a training on it. It's in our free library.
I know I signed up for it yesterday, but I had clients, but I
Yeah.
have the recording in my inbox and I
Yeah.
really want to listen to it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's, I think it's just a call for us to get really clear and differentiate ourselves and educate our communities. But yeah, the landscape is changing. I have predictions, but I hold them loosely.
Oh, I want to hear them though.
We can
I
talk
love,
about them another time. I want to
oh,
talk
come
about
on.
you.
I don't have any predictions. And I really, there's a part of me that really likes to believe that I get what's going on. And I pay a lot of attention to astrology. I do a very serious student of astrology.
Mhm.
And so, that part of me thinks, oh, I know what the hell's going on. And it's not good, depending upon which part of me is getting scared
Mhm.
at the moment. But of course, we can't control anything. Is this where I thought I would be at this age? No, nah. Is this the life I thought I'd have? Let me just I'm pretty damn close to being 72 years old because I just don't believe in hiding. It's like, what? There's no secrets. Why keep it a secret? So anyway, I don't even know where I was going with that because now I'm like fading off into the sunset.
It's okay.
But
I'll bring
in
you
terms
back.
in terms of predicting,
Yeah.
there's so much liberation and freedom and lightness for me in and continuing to learn because I'm not going to make it this lifetime, but continuing to learn to let it go.
Mhm.
Put it down.
Mhm.
Put it down. Trust, trust, trust. Bringing in the transpersonal for me, that's what I do personally. And really, all these dead people, they're all dead now.
Mhm.
What most matters? What most matters now while I'm alive, while I'm still breathing, sometimes with oxygen, but not right now.
Mm-hmm.
what most matters, and to use that as my North Star
Yeah, I love that.
without being too wooey,
Mm-hmm.
because which I really, really like to do, that does not pay my bills.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't pay my bills. And also I'm running a business and I take real pride in having, I wouldn't say, if anybody looked at my books and my back end, it's like of how I do my business. Ooh, it's very sloppy, but it's so much better. And I'm taking great pride in the strides I've made.
Yeah.
I really have.
Progress, not perfection.
Oh, thank goodness for that. Yeah.
Thank goodness. And thank you for your honesty. I think it's a conversation that we don't have a lot or enough, about aging and what this means. And as we're still creating an part of our lives, this other half of our lives, and really considering like, what do we want to create and how do we want to show up for ourselves and others? If you were to give encouragement, I want to ask in two ways. To someone who is starting their practice, what would you encourage them with? And for someone who is stepping into the later years of their life, what encouragement do you have for them?
Starting
Starting
practice.
a practice, yeah.
Starting your practice, oof, it's so trite. And I think it's really hard to do on your own. But the first phrase is trust yourself, trust your knowing, and admit that that is really hard to do when you don't know what you're doing and you don't know which direction you're going in. And if you're in a toxic system, which many, many agencies are, and a lot of beliefs out there held by the profession, get help. I don't mean a therapist. If you need a therapist, get a therapist, of course. But a program such as yours, a community, a
Mhm.
tribe of folks, and it doesn't have to be big. Trust your own knowing. You're going to make mistakes. I make mistakes. Oh my God, I was thinking about one just this morning. It's been years. Yeah, yeah, we're human. Let yourself be human and have good support around you.
I love that. And for those
And
who are coming into the later years of their career and
oh Lordy, yeah, give me a call. Send me an email. We'll talk.
I love that.
There's just so much denial about aging in our culture, especially if you're, walking around in a female gendered body or female identified body. There's so much toxicity, so many, many, many terribly damaging core beliefs that we have all internalized, which also means or invites that there's so much still to learn, to grow, to feel into about how it lands with you. And there are good people who have walked this path before us. I'm not the first 72-year-old. Oh my God, when I was I had for 8 years, almost 8 years here in Santa Fe, I hosted a public radio show here. And And it was my first time at boot camp, and there was some discussions like, "Well, I'm making no money. I was not getting paid, and I never got one client from it. So does that fit in with my business plan of increasing my income?" It never did, but it satisfied some other things for me.
Yeah.
But one of the people I interviewed on that show, because she was having a huge moment nationally in her professional career, I read about an interview with her in the New York Times. I bought her book. When I interviewed her, Dr. Pauline Boss, I think the book we talked about was Ambiguous Loss. That woman, rock star that she hopefully still is, she was 89 years old.
Mm.
So, that whole age is just a number. Well, it really is and it isn't. But don't buy into the BS before you've explored it for yourself. How about that?
Let's quote that.
Yeah.
I love
Yes.
that. Yeah. Well, Melanie, thank you. You are a gem. I have appreciated having you in my life, and I've referred clients to you that, that are dear to me, and I just appreciate how you show up, and I am taking something from this for sure, and I hope our listeners are. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, Kelly. I have to say it really has been my pleasure. And let me just add that the only reason I did this, whoever wrote the email, in my inbox, inviting people to
Mhm.
apply to be guests, it was so brilliant. It was exactly what you teach and what I learned how to do. It was talking to me. And the one thing I really remember, it's like, you don't like to be visible. You're scared to show up. You said it nicer than I am. I hate, there's part of me that's terrified of being too visible. And that is the only reason I made myself, or I chose to do this. And because I knew it would be okay. Because the two of you, Kelly, Miranda, oh, you guys are so fabulous. And from the very first hour of that boot camp I did, you were able to embody and create a space of emotional safety that has stayed with me all of these years, and that I use as what I aspire to do. Not just with clients, but with people, because, kindness, a laugh, a 4-letter cuss word every once in a while, we still get stuff done, right? Yeah. It's wonderful to see you again, Kelly. It really is.
Thanks, Melanie. All right. For those of you listening, we'd love to hear your comments. Review this podcast, send it to a friend. Let's open up the conversation about our growth and aging and practice and what this all means and looks like. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Until then.
I hope you loved today's episode. If you're a therapist who's tired of those long hours, low pay, and constantly battling burnout, don't forget our free video training designed just for you on how to build and grow a sustainable, profitable solo or group practice. Head over to zynnyme.com/podcast to check it out today. Until next time.